Good evening, everyone. There's a lot to consider when choosing the right postgraduate finance degree program. We are here to assist you with one of these programs, MSc in Finance. Welcome to LTV Student Diaries. I'm Shifali Shrivastava, Marketing and Communication Manager at University. The program examines the fundamental principles of finance used in valuing financial securities and corporations, utilizing the derivatives for risk management and exploring strategies to diversify the investment portfolios. So if MSc in Finance is your thing, you need to stay till the end. We're joined by Raghav Krishnan today, currently studying MSc in Finance at Australian National University, to discuss this topic further in detail. Welcome, Raghav. How are you?
I am good, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us here. And before we dive in, how has been the journey so far at ANU?
It's been good. It's a fresh new experience. I'm glad I took this step in my life, and there's still a ways to go. I'm hoping to explore and see more of Australia, as well as try to learn and grow as a person.
Great. Now, before we move further into conversation and we talk mostly about the course, a lot of students have this perception in mind, which is not exactly wrong, that studying abroad is an expensive affair. So did you consider any funding options in order to pursue the course? If yes, what were they?
So I personally did not. I fortunately was able to fund my entire course myself, or rather my parents were able to. But there are options which exist if needed. So the two main ways which you can fund your course is A, by taking out a loan. So there are education loans which Indian banks provide that are able to fund either partially or wholly the tuition fee mainly. The other, while there are a lot of expenses to take into consideration, it is a lot easier to pay off loans slowly rather than the lump sum tuition fee. On the other hand, one more way is you can potentially get a scholarship from the university. So in my experience, I got a scholarship along with my offer letter. Usually, if they feel that you are eligible, they will offer one along with that. So sometimes you can also apply for one on the side, and that can help cut out a chunk of the tuition fee as well.
Great. Now, moving on to the course. So what is the basic qualification required for MSc in Finance, and what exactly does the course entail across?
So for masters, I completed my BCom in India, and I scored an 8.14 overall, and that was enough for them to consider it. I did not have to do any special entrance exams. Uh, I only had to do the English test, uh, the English proficiency test. Um, Aside from that, they just took into account any other work or any other papers that I might have done in the past. But what's good about Australia is they do not take into account the number of years your degree was, as may be the case in North America. So whether you've done a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree, you are still eligible for a master's.
Yeah, great deal about the course. And of course, this does make sense. And I believe the bachelor's degrees create a lot of difference, correct?
So actually the thing is, Australian National University allows you that little bit of freedom to choose your master's program. So it's not necessary that you had to have a commerce background. And I know people who have not had a very strict commerce background that have actually opted for Masters of Finance. So the thing is, at least for the first semester, they start at a somewhat basic level for you. So these were concepts that I personally had covered very early in college. So for me, it was still a little easier going, but it's very helpful for people, even if they are completely new to it. They can get the hang of it. So I would not say that you should be deterred just because you've not done something in the past. You still have the option to take it if that is truly what you want to pursue. They do not they are not as strict about what you've done in the past, at least for the time being. They have that little bit of leeway.
Yeah, it's just that you need to have that knack for finance. If you don't have that
Yes.
interest, regardless that you've pursued your bachelor's in commerce or not, it will not work for you.
Mhm.
Right. Now, I want to also understand what is the future job aspect with respect to this course. What is the career opportunity available once the course is done?
So Canberra tends to offer various types of government jobs, and there are obviously the big four as well. The big four being EY, KPMG, these companies. So they do tend to offer jobs for people in Masters of Finance. I would say the two main streams which they take are for investment analyst and accounting. So these are mainly the jobs which we tend to be offered. Uh, so you have the option of not necessarily staying in Canberra. There are some more job options outside of Canberra as well. So that depends on which city you are in. So I'm not very familiar with them because it's still a little further away for me. But the opportunity is there. I would say Australia does have jobs available for people doing masters in finance.
Great, great. Now, you chose Australia and Australian National University. What factors did you consider while selecting the country and the university?
So, Australian National University is one of the highest ranked universities in the world. So, worldwide, I think it's ranked around 27. And in Australia, it is one of the top universities that there are. So, that was definitely a big factor. It's always going to look nice to any hiring company when you're graduating from a top university. Aside from that, I think once you're here and you actually take a look at the campus and you realize what a place it is, then you realize that why it is in fact one of the top universities. The resources available, the professors, the extracurricular programs, all that's even just aside from your basic studying, what is available is a lot, and it's I would say it's something which not necessarily every university does offer. Australian National University is quite ahead in that sense.
Great, great. And of course, ranking does create a lot of difference with respect to the, faculty over this who are
Yes.
teaching students. Great. Now, there has been a concept and it is advised, whether when you're applying also or when you are over there, that extracurricular activities improve a lot of chance, improve a lot of chance with respect to their job prospect. Is that true? And if yes, what kind of groups and clubs are available at the university, and what clubs would you recommend one to join who's pursuing MSc in finance?
So mainly what would help for a finance student is to try and get internships in these companies. So internships are not always the easiest to secure because more often than not uh, they would look to have a student who they know is staying for a longer period of time. So if your course is only 2 years, they may not consider you over an Australian student who they know is going to be here. So that I would say is a challenge which international students have to face. But I'm not saying that there is no opportunity for us at all. There are opportunities. You just have to look a little extra harder, so to say. So aside from internships, there are obviously various kinds of clubs you can join. And some of them, I would say, they're purely for building connections, being social, trying to put yourself out there so that you can gain more opportunity. Some otherwise are just honestly for fun, just to meet new people, have a good time. It doesn't have to be studies related or course related or anything. You can meet people from other courses, learn about their experiences, see what they've done to potentially further their careers. So, yeah, I would say do whatever you find interesting. Don't stick to just your course because you want to further in that.
Yeah, and that's why they're extracurricular. That's the edge that you get over other courses. So definitely. Have you joined any club so far?
Not exactly, but I've gone to a few events here and there that have had to do with my course. So I got a good idea of what the job scenario looks like, at least in Canberra. So that.
Right. Right. Now you mentioned a lot of points where it's a little difficult for international students, maybe because of the aspect that they're not living there. Any recruiter would look for that, point for sure. Are there any other such challenges for international student? Like in case if we talk about you, what were your expectation before you started your journey, and was it different from the reality?
So before going, I thought it would be a little easier than I anticipated, but it's not easy by any means. It is a bit of a challenge, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. Uh, it's just that living independent, there's a lot more things that you take care of that you would not have had to worry about in India, whether it's cooking for yourself or doing laundry or taking care of your other various expenses, potentially working. And just if you live alone, then living alone is a challenge by itself, or maybe with people who you're not so familiar with. So a lot of these things they tend to accumulate, and it can be a little pressure, but it's something. It's an experience like any other. You can get the hang of it eventually, and you will learn to make the most of your surroundings. So I would say if you, I would say just like be sure that what you are doing is what you want to do rather than being forced to or being under pressure. Because if you are not happy about what you're doing, then you will probably struggle a lot more over here
Right.
in along with everything else.
Right. So you should, that's always, advisable. In fact, anyone who's watching our episodes regularly, they know that we, in every episode, in every show, we say this, you should not do anything which is out of trend or out of pressure, maybe peer pressure or family pressure. Do something which is of your own interest, because then only you will thrive over there. Otherwise, you'll be struggling, and then you will not like the whole place. So, right.
Yes.
Now, what advice would you give to come out from this scenario if somebody is homesick or that?
If you're homesick, you can always just call home and talk to your parents or something like that. But I would say the best way is just to just go out and explore the city. And like I also mentioned, do some extracurricular activities, hang out with friends, go to a restaurant, go for a movie. There's a lot of things to do. And I think it's, you know, once you're away from home, you have a little more freedom to do the things you want to. You don't have to ask permission necessarily. So in that way, that freedom is a good thing, I think, and it's an experience which I feel like everyone should have at some point to be able to do the things that they enjoy. So just try to break the monotony once in a while and just do something else. That's all.
Right. Right. And of course, this freedom comes with a lot of responsibility. In the meantime, don't forget that you're there to study and to pursue a dream of your own. So you
Yeah.
should not just, put that dream on the second burner and just start doing all these activities. There should be a proper balance. Work balance
Yes.
is life balance is something which is very important in any walk of life. Now, you mentioned that, of course, having friends and networking, going out for movies and all that, it creates a lot of difference. And networking is, today's essential, I'll say, in every channel. You are living in the student housing in a PBSC accommodation. How are things over there? And a lot of students have this scenario in their mind that maybe apartments are better. So is it really true that they are better than apartments for a student than these buildings, which are designed specifically for students?
Not necessarily. I think it depends on personal preference. My personal preference was that I wanted to live alone, so I opted for a studio apartment. There are some who prefer to share. That's up to them. It's totally based on what living style they prefer and what they can afford. So uh, I think it's not different in a way. Like they're all student oriented, so you're bound to have a lot of students around you as well. So that community is always present, and you know that. And I think the only main difference I would say is sometimes the campus ones are located on campus. That's all. So they are closer. But aside from that, there is not much that is different. They have similar amenities. They have the same resources available regardless. So it's totally based on available and what you can get, honestly.
Right. As for your availability, and of course, this does give an edge that you're living near the campus, so you can just wake 10 minutes early to your class and you can just rush to the
Yeah, yeah.
college. Right. I mean, and I didn't realize that we're almost near the end of our session. But before we go, there are two more questions that I want to discuss. And one of them is very important. Actually, both of them are important, but one of them is something which mostly students keep on asking. What is the cost of living in Canberra, if I talk about, and how does this international student needs to manage it?
So the cost of living in Canberra tends to be a little higher than most other Australian cities. And the main expense is bound to be your rent. So rent tends to be at least $1,000 a month, Australian dollars, that is. So taking that much into account and your general, say, groceries, food and beverage expenses. So if you cook for yourself, then your food expenses are bound to be a little lower. If you get more food from outside, then it's obviously bound to be a little higher. So all in all, I would say for the month, around $2,000 or so. This is taking everything into account, all expenses would make sense. And I'm not regarding the tuition fee in any of these expenses. This is purely
this is the living expense that you're considering, and that too living expense is subjective to the person you are. If you want to go out, your expense would be a little much higher. If you want to cook in, your expense would be actually a little much easier and in lesser than the number that Raghav has just
depending
shared.
on your lifestyle, I would say between 1,500 to 2,000.
1,500 Australian dollars to 2,000.
Yes, per month.
Thank you so much, Raghav, for joining us. Now, my final question, and I think that's something which you being an international student would be the best one to answer. What advice would you like to give or would you like to share with the students who aspire to study abroad?
So as briefly mentioned before, be sure about what you want to do and be sure that where you're going is the best place that is offering what you want to do. Don't go for the sake of going, just because in your mind you think abroad is just better in some respect, because it's not it's not all party in abroad. It is hard work. You will have a lot of responsibility to take care of, and it's just something which I feel does require a lot of thought. And also, more often than not, it's bound to be your parents who are financing it. So you think about them and how hard they've worked to get you there, and not take that for granted as well. To do your best as you see fit. And yeah, just once if you are there, then go out, explore, have a good time, see the new country.
Right. It's very important to be sure of what you're doing and why you're doing. On this note, we'll be closing our session. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found it useful. Looking forward to seeing you guys next Friday at 5 p.m. Stay tuned to our social media handles for more information. Thank you, Raghav, so much for joining us today.
Of course.